Hello everyone and welcome. Today I've got a layout share. I'm going to flip through 8 layouts or 4 double page spreads. I have 11 cards and then I've got some bonus layouts to share with you at the end. Now the story of how this all came about. Last year I ran a mini retreat and we focused on the 4 Seasons collection, and I never actually showed those on camera, but when this collection came in I thought the same cutting guide, what I had designed, would work perfectly with this gorgeous Hello Darlin paper. Now this is in the April to June catalogue, and normally I do things in order and I follow along a 3-month cycle with the way that they're ordered in a catalogue. So you may have already seen I've done a workshop on Cosette using all of these gorgeous papers, and then normally the next one you would probably see from me would be the second one, which is Hey Handsome, and I have got some of that already started but it's not quite ready to share. The one I'm sharing with you today is this Hello Darling paper. Now the way this has come about is I have a bigger retreat this weekend that I'm doing with my good friend Danny Edwards, and we've decided to have a red, white and blue theme. So we picked the Hello Darling as the main gift for the people that are coming on the Saturday. So when this goes live I'll be away on a retreat and I've designed the layouts and the cards for their activity for the Saturday. So you can see it's a red, white and blue theme, which does tie in with 4th of July for Americans, but the Australian flag is also red, white and blue, so it ties in nicely with summer shots for us, also celebrations of New Year's Eve, Australia Day celebrations, and I really do love this nice clean crisp pack of pattern papers. I think it's absolutely gorgeous. So you can see all the pattern papers here and the sticker sheets. So that's basically what I'm going to show you today. I've used one paper packet with the sticker sheets, and I've used some of the stamp sets from the Hello Darlin collection, the card making stamp set, you can see a little peek of that here, and the Hello Darlin scrapbooking stamp and thin cuts, which have more of a floral theme. The stamp set that I've primarily used among the layouts are the card making stamp set because I really love all of these bursts and everything. And you can see I've done some die cutting, and that's with our circle thin cuts. So the 1.5 inch and the 1 inch one works quite well if you have those, or if you have other circle dies in your collection, you probably find that you'll find a circle that will suit this size of stamping. And the florals I've mainly used in the cards as well as the bursts. So let's get into the sharing of the artwork. This is the first layout I've done, and there's a little bit of clever cutting involved with this to extend the pieces of paper. I have got a lot of white space on all of these layouts, and that's because the papers are quite busy. They're a strong bold pattern, and I just felt like I needed some areas of white space just to break that up, and also it helps bring your eye into the photos. So when my photos go on here, these are going to be the main attractions. I will be trimming my photos down, so these photo placeholders I put on here for purposes of display and putting up on YouTube, but I do also use them as a double mat. So when I trim my photos down, there will be an 1/8 of an inch showing to give a white border between my photo, effectively a white mat, and then my coloured cardstock mat. I've got stamping directly onto the page, and I'm using first, second and sometimes third generation inking with some of my stamping, and then layering the circle thin cuts with these images stamped on top of them just creates some dimension here. Even when the circle thin cut is placed directly onto the page, it still creates a dimension and a separation from the background stamping. And then you can use varying degrees of heights of foam tape to give even more dimension onto these circle elements. And I love how they all run across the bottom of the photos, and then this one surrounds this photo here. So that helps draw your eye into the main focus of your scrapbooking layouts, which are your photos, and then journaling can go along here, or I can put another little mat here and do some journaling here. What I'm going to do at the end of this video is bring in these same pages but done with the 4 Seasons packet as I mentioned before, and all the details on these layouts will be in the description box below. So make sure you click that little see more ... icon there. That will open up everything that I've used and all the details on these pages. So this was the first double page spread I did. Let's move on to the second. I've kept basically Sapphire, Candy Apple and Mist as my colours for stamping and for photo mats. This layout has a lot of stamping in the background, and these are like offset photo mats. So by trimming some strips and then doing some other cutting and putting your photo mat off to the side helps frame the photo, and then I've got the stamping around these photos as well, and then repeated that same pattern paper with the red star over on this side and this fun burst pattern. For me, this is going to have New Year's Eve fireworks photos on it. I just think this represents all the clusters of fireworks that you see bursting into the sky, and I think it will make a great layout for those types of photos. So anything with fireworks or even just birthday parties works so well with these types of stamping and papers. Layout 3, you can see this is probably my favorite pattern in the pack, and I love the fun of it. This lends itself really well to more masculine birthday parties or celebrations or even camping out. I've used some tags from our all-purpose tag thin cuts to create little banner elements coming down to the left and off to the right of this pattern piece. And then you all probably know that I do love the word sticker strips. So mixing those in amongst these little tag elements just makes them all have a place to live. And tucking word strips into a photo mat just gives them a place to belong, rather than just putting them directly onto a page without anything with them. Having them have somewhere to live really helps give everything a cohesive design. These are more stickers from the set. I've used some 3D tape as well, foam tape as well, and this one doesn't have any stamping at all. The first two layouts have a lot of stamping on them, but this one and the next page, they don't have stamping. I'm just using the stickers and the papers. Layout 4, you can see I've cut into the pattern here and I've inlaid a stitch star, and using some color blocking with the pattern papers to frame up my photos. And you would have noticed the little dots that are around here, and this is using liquid pearls. So I've used deep water and Carnation red. And I've got a little bit of a confession on this page. I had cut this sticker in half because I was going to separate it at the top and the bottom here of this strip, but when I was doing the dry fitting, this was a little bit too tall, and it also pulled a lot of focus. Because of the bold print here and all the white space, my eye was drawn to this area. So I decided to put it down in the right-hand side and have these little elements here leading across so that you're looking at the photos. But then I had the problem of having an actual cut in my sticker. So I've tried to disguise that, albeit not too well, with some Carnation red liquid pearls. But I'm going to live with that, because this is what happens when you cut something. You can't put it magically back together, and the little line did show, so I did try and disguise that a little bit. So I'm going to set these aside and bring in the cards that I've created with Hello Darlin. So there's a little bit of a theme going with these as well. I have used some of the card making stamp set from the Hello Darlin and done some generational stamping. So that's the first card there. And then you can see it's a similar pattern for the second card, but I've used a different pattern paper and I've also matted that as well. And here are the florals in that set. And they really look lovely with all the generational stamping. And I've got a bit of a tip on how to line this up so that it's a little bit easier for you. So hang around. Once I've put all these cards out, I'm going to show you that tip. This is another one with a similar pattern, but by putting the sentiment on a little rectangle and then clustering the flowers around it gives a totally different look to it. And the sentiments that I'm using are not in the Hello Darling set at all. These are from the It's a Little Things card making special, which was up earlier this year. So these two cards here are a very similar pattern. It's basically the same cuts for them, but I've used a stitched heart, and then I've used the negative side to be the white side here, and then split the heart in half, cut it in half, and that gives a great look. So it's almost like a twofer card, even though you have to cut the papers. And this sentiment here is from the Strawberry Mice card making workshop kit, which is currently available. And this one is also along a similar lines with this, but instead of discarding that heart in the middle there, I've actually used that and I've popped that up on foam tape there. I think you can see there's a little bit of dimension there, and that gives a great inlay look. Now the next 3 cards uses some random stamping type techniques, but we're making a background with the stamps. So you can see I've laid everything out here. I usually start with my biggest icon, usually in the middle, and then sometimes I actually lay the stamp itself out to get an idea of sizes of where I have to put things, especially when I'm using a larger image. So this one is stamped direct to paper. These ones are all stamped and then die cut out, and then I've used the same sort of technique here. Some are adhered direct to my card panel, and some are popped up on foam tape to give a little bit more dimension. And I think you can see that adds a lovely layer to the card. This one is beautiful also, and I love how this one looks, but if you want to take it up to another level, die cut your pieces out and pop some of the images up onto foam tape. And this one isn't quite random stamping, it's more like random stickering. So these were all the florals that were left from my sticker sheet, and because I did all of the layouts with the burst type stamp set, I didn't put the florals with those layouts, but I knew that I wanted to make this card a happy anniversary card for my parents, and my mum loves florals, so I thought these stickers worked really well to put onto a card panel and then trim. So I've got to make a little bit of room because I've got more cards to show you. And this one here just used strips of the pattern and then a simple happy birthday stamp with a double layered tag. And this one, this is a really great pattern when you've got some pattern paper left and you can just offset the panels and then decorate the piece. Now, one thing you might have noticed when you're looking at this, all of these ones with the pattern papers have a replicated cut from the layout. So I was able to get all of these cards plus the layouts out of one paper pack, and I still have some left over to create either another layout or some more cards if I wish. So while I've got all of these cards out, I think I'll show you the cards that I made with the 4 Seasons packs. Now, these cards all use a variety of either winter, summer, spring or autumn. So it just depends on, I'm trying to work out how I'm going to fit everything in here. I might just put it like that for now. So it just depends on what I did. I did make more cards with 4 Seasons, and I might do a flip through of them on Instagram and my Facebook page. So this is the winter paper, and then they're the winter type stamps that go with it. So you can see how well this pattern translates from a totally bold and vibrant type pattern to a more subtle look with the 4 Seasons winter. The same thing goes with this one. This one is 4 Seasons Spring. There's a totally different look to the cards because of the pattern paper and the cardstock used. And this one has the same pattern again with, I've fussy cut out the thank you, and this is the autumn collection, the 4 Seasons Autumn, and I've used rose gold pearls, I think, for that one, and a little bit of stamping with the border across the top and the bottom. And these are the heart cards, so this is all using the autumn collection as well. So you can see by putting the heart up, the stitched heart up on this wood grain paper, it stands out a little bit more than it does with the busy floral paper here. These are the background stamping ones, and then this is one with all the die cuts done, but I didn't do any tucking like I did with this one where I could tuck leaves in underneath. This is just a one layer, but it's all die cut and adhered directly to the card. And I've done another similar one like that, and you can see it's a totally different look. And this one is a card panel that is then matted onto some rosemary cardstock and then onto the card base. So it gives a different look. This is a more simpler version, but if you wanted to add a little bit more contrast, putting it onto some cardstock really elevates the design. This one here is using the 4 Seasons Winter, and you can see that it's exactly the same pattern. I've added in a border stamp from It's the Little Things. I can't remember which set that's from. And for the last one here, this is using 4 Seasons Winter and some ink distressing on the panels rather than leaving them clean and crisp. I think the 4 Seasons Winter papers really lended themselves to a bit of ink distressing, and I did try with this one, but with these patterns I just preferred to have the clean design. So that's all the 4 Seasons cards. I'm just going to put all of these away and then I'll bring the layouts in. Oh, and before I forget, I've got to show you the trick I found with lining up all of these floral stamped images. So I'm just going to bring this card in for a point of reference, and you can see that there are layers to the stamping on this. So this is the actual packet, but when you open it up and you look at the stamp sets, It's been designed so that everything is in a row. So this large floral element here, these are the large floral elements that you need to stamp. Now, if you wanted to, you could just stamp this one layer and color it in, or you could stamp this one layer over the top of the base. This is the sapphire flower that I've done here. They're all in a row. The large leaf is together, and this 3-leaf section is together with this one. When you were taking these off the carrier sheet and putting them onto your blocks, if you put them onto your block in the same orientation as they appear on this carrier sheet, it will line up. If I take, let me just take this one off and I'll show you what I mean. So if I take this one and line it directly on top of that, it fits perfectly. I'll put that one back on and then I'll take this one off. And if I line this back up over top in the same orientation, I don't turn it or anything, it lines up perfectly to the base layer. And then you can just have fun experimenting with the same color ink, first, second and third generation, or bringing in a different color ink that has a deeper hue, and you can layer these up absolutely beautifully. The same thing applies with this one. I'll just do this one because it's easier for you to see. I've taken that off the carrier sheet, so that's in that orientation there. And then if I put it on the block in the same orientation, it lines up perfectly with the other layers. So I thought you might find that handy if you haven't worked that out as of yet. When I first started stamping, I just took them off the carrier sheet and put them on the block any which way like I normally do. But then I realized that close to my heart, I've put these exactly perfectly in the orientation that you need to put them on your block for everything to stamp up to make it so much easier for you. So now I'm going to bring in the 4 Seasons paper. I've done one of these for each season. So this is my first layout, and you can see that this creates a totally different look to the page when you use a different pattern paper. I've used exactly the same cutting method for all of these, and it just gives a totally different look. And then all the layers stamping here with the Merry Season stamp set. And for this one here, I used the summer paper, 4 Seasons Summer, and you can see with these ones here, I haven't used the true color of the ink, so there's a lot of first and second generation stamping around all of these elements. But what I love about using the same pattern, I don't know if you're like me, sometimes I get stuck in a bit of a rut and I'm not sure what to create. What I can do is go back to an old design that I've done and just copy it over and give it a totally different fresh look. And when the photos come on here, you'll see a different feel to this. And because they'll be in different albums, nobody's going to see this layout and then this one straight after it. And I don't know if you can pick up, I've done a bit of textured stenciling here with the texture paste on these ones, and also over top of the pattern paper as well. It's got the same little pennant banner, and now you can see the difference by putting some of the word strip stickers over the top of the banners that have been made out of the tags. It really does make a little cluster all of its own. And this one here is using autumn. So I'll just get these around the right way. You can see instead of a star, I've used the heart, which I then replicated in the cards that I showed you. Lots of grouping with elements. I've repositioned things because this one doesn't have the stamping on it, but you can see some background stamping on these pages, as well as some die cutting, and the facing page as well. Instead of using just a zip strip that was cut in half, I've actually framed this one out with another piece of zip strip as well. So I hope you hung in there with all the things that I had to show you for Hey Darlin, and also for the layout share with the 4 Seasons things that I worked on last year, and I hope you enjoyed seeing what I've done with this. And there is one more thing that I wanted to show you. If you wanted to zhuzh these pages up a little bit more, you could bring in the embellishments from the Hello Darlin kit. This has some card that you can just push the pieces out. I've already pushed out some of these because I thought you might like to see them. There's some cardstock ones, and there's also some acrylic shapes as well. So you could add some of these floral elements in here if you wanted to. There are some banners as well. I'm just going to tip these all out so you can see there's some hearts and banners and floral elements and more bursts. And when you punch out the cardstock elements, there are some gorgeous fine details. And I'm going to add some of these to my pages, I think, just by layering up some more of these around certain areas gives you a whole other look again. So I put some of those there. I can put traditions across here if I wanted to, or put best day ever. And then there's this little banner section that I could add across the top of my layout like this. I can find there are 5 of these. So you could have a whole banner coming across your page like this, and you could put a couple of the little bursts around it. There are smaller ones in here. So if I punch one of these out, you could put those on top of each banner piece, or you could put them around the banner piece. So there is a lot of scope with these layouts to add extra elements to them if you wish. I know it looks a bit like a hot mess now that I've tipped everything everywhere. So I'll just take these off to the side, but you get an idea of how many are in this actual pack and what you could do with them. I love this floral, it's so pretty. So let's just have a quick little play with additions that I could add to this page. So I could put traditions down along here. I could back that with a piece of white. You can see I've got 2 of the word strips here and one over on this side. So summer smiles and traditions would work very, very well. These little bursts can go around. And I can also bring in some of the little red pieces as well, just to add a little bit more flair to the pages. I'm going to take out this spectacular word just so I can show you how fine some of these elements are and how well they come out of the carrier sheet. So I could move the traditions and I could put spectacular down here across the bottom, or I could nestle it down in this one. So you can add further embellishments to these if you wanted to. So I can tuck in some more of these little bursts and another little acrylic shape, and I could just keep going with things like that as long as I have them grouped in little clusters so that it makes it look like they actually belong on the page. So I quite like it when things are tucked in and around places. It really does give them a place to belong. If I had put that up on the page like this, it's sort of floating a little bit and my eye goes to here rather than onto the photos and across the page. So this would be something that I would do at the very, very end when it comes to embellishing. Make sure that everything has a place to belong on your page and it looks like it's supposed to be there. I hope you've enjoyed this flip through of all the projects that I had to share. I know it was a lot of projects this time, but I really did want to show you these layouts and what I'd done last year with 4 Seasons, as I hadn't got around to sharing that as yet. Thank you so much for tuning in. I hope to see you next time. Bye for now.